Hi everyone, my name is Saya and welcome back to HustleSZN. In today's video, I am just going to do a really casual and quick conversation about a recent book that I read, I Wish You All the Best, which I'll pick up in a second. Yeah, since there's really nothing creative about this video, I thought I might as well dress up for the occasion. So I will be doing it in my reviewing robes, as you can see, and that's it. This book has already been promoted, so I won't go too much into it, but I just wanted to read it because I've never read a book about a non-binary character. It's Pride Month, and one of my goals for this year was, aside from just reading more books by POC authors, was to also read some books about diverse sexualities and like gender identities and things like that. So this falls into that category. So I Wish You All the Best. It's about Ben and a boy named Nathan. Ben's non-binary, comes out to their parents, and the parents are assholes, and so Ben goes to live with their sister, and their sister was also kicked out because, as we've established, the parents were assholes. Yeah, it's just like their life trying to figure shit out and trying to work through that trauma and try to still be happy and live their best life, etc., etc. Overall, I really enjoyed this book. There were aspects of it I really liked and some parts I didn't like as much. So recently I've read Red, White, and Royal Blue. I also read We Are the Ants, which also features a queer romance in it. And for all of these books, I feel like their value is not one that I would be able to determine because I myself am not queer. Obviously, if you identify as non-binary, then I'm sure you'll love it. I'm sure you will love being represented by Ben and seeing a character use they, them pronouns, things like that. For me personally, what I got out of this book was that I feel like by the end of it, I was just way more comfortable with like non-binary lingo. Like, I don't want to make it sound like I was against them to begin with, but I'm just saying like our society isn't super accepting of it. We're not used to using they, them pronouns in the singular form that often because for some reason like it's pushed on us to use he or her, things like that. When in reality, like it's just language. You could mold it however you want to. That's basically like poetry and writing. So honestly, like my favorite part was just how often it was normalized and how often they, them was used in so many different like sentence structures. So by the end of it, you're like, you know what? There is nothing that should be making me nervous to interact with someone like this. I'm not gonna offend them. You feel comfortable and almost empowered to go out there and be like, we're using they, them pronouns. Shut the fuck up. That's what we're doing, you know? And I hope this doesn't come off as like I was some crazy non-binary phobic person who is now comfortable. It's just more that like no matter how much you know or support something, if you don't use it, if you're not making it a part of your daily culture and like what you're consuming, you're not gonna feel comfortable using it because it's gonna feel strange in the sense that it's not what you're used to. That being said, the only one thing that I struggled with a little bit, and I'll give you some context for it. You know how your mood kind of goes up and down, and when you're happy you want to read like happy things, and when you're feeling a bit down and want to wallow in your pain, you read something a bit more heavier. This book was a lot heavier than I expected. Especially Ben's point of view is just so bleak. Like, in general, they're not a very happy character. I mean, they don't have much to be happy about. It wasn't that it was necessarily triggering to put me down in a bad mood. I think actually what ended up happening was that a lot of times the struggles that they go through, they weren't described in very much detail. And so I think unless you are able to kind of put yourself in their shoes and really imagine how that must feel for them, it's kind of hard to want to connect. And this is something that I've noticed, that if you can connect to any of their struggles, that won't be a problem for you. Because I've noticed like when I read books that are about grief, for example, or that are about POC troubles, it doesn't matter how much they explain or don't explain, because I know that pain, I can fill in the blanks so easily and it doesn't bother me. So I still think that this book could resonate with people and that a lot of people could understand the pain that Ben goes through. But for me personally, I think I would have liked more. But I recognize that that's not really a criticism because this book wasn't written for me. So the character of Nathan was just a blessing. He was so much fun, and they really balanced each other out, so it was really nice. And I'll also say it's a very quick read. So if you're like on the fence about it, don't know if you want to invest time, whatever, it is a very fast read. I read almost all of it in one day, and then I became very busy, so I probably could have finished it in one sitting. I'm popping back in my pajamas because during editing I realized that I forgot like one of the coolest parts of the book. I did mention that there's anxiety and depression in this book, and like the main character goes to therapy to try to help out with the traumas and stuff like that. So I guess if you need a warning for that, here it is. But otherwise, I want to say that the psychiatrist was phenomenal. It was one of the few depictions that I've seen so far, not that I've read that many, where it actually resembled what I see during med school and stuff. The psychiatrist in here, like, I would love to have her as a preceptor. I would love to learn from her. She was so real. Like, she wasn't, because a lot of books I think kind of romanticize it, or they go in that direction of, you know, like Freud sitting in a chair and someone lying down and like you just talk about shit. But the reality of it is that a lot of psychiatrists are like very blunt, and they'll challenge your ideas, and they're not like always nice. They're trying to do their job and they're concerned about certain things, but it's not all about like talk and I'll agree with everything you say. I think like the medicine side of psychiatry isn't always portrayed well in books, in the sense that, like, you know, asking about side effects and playing around with dosing and being good cop but also bad cop, you know? Things like that. I don't know if that makes any sense, but the point is, I actually really enjoyed how this psychiatrist conducted her like interviews and all the scenes with therapy and whatnot. They felt really real and they were just well done. I like the psychiatrist. She like actually talks about confidentiality, and she tells people to shut up if they're stepping out of line, which is like a common thing in psychiatry because the family will always want to get like super involved. I loved the depiction of the psychiatrist, of medicine, of doctors in this, and she was a woman, so like you know. Anyways, all right, I will leave now and go back to editing. Overall, I think the tone was just slightly dramatic for my taste, but I'm really excited to see what else Mason Deaver puts out. And yeah, bye!